What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to another live stream on high altitude investing. Today is January 12th, 2026, and I'm super hyped about doing a live stream with you guys today because everything is set up for some massive growth. We have a perfect setup in these markets for a lot of upside. We're starting to see things pop off like XMR and a lot of other things that are really looking primed for some big explosions. So I'm super hyped about going into all of that today and covering all of these different things that I'm seeing and really helping you guys make the best investment decisions moving forward as we really start to go into 2026. So it's going to be a super good live stream. Let me share the link around as I always do on X and in my Discord. And we'll get started right away. Get doing some analysis on some of these coins. Cool. So let's go to Trading View. Let's start with Bitcoin, as I like to do. Bitcoin being the mothership, it's usually the best one to start looking at first, either the total market cap or Bitcoin, because it's going to give you a really good idea of what's going to happen for the rest of the market as well. So let's pull up Bitcoin here. And by the way, that is changing a little bit as crypto has grown. We have started to see a little bit of the correlation between these things lessen. So things are becoming a little bit more independent, but overall crypto follows pretty much has always followed each other. All of these different coins follow themselves. Bitcoin always runs first though. That's something we do commonly see. A big run happen on Bitcoin before we get that big run happening on the altcoins. So what is up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in. Alex Diaz says hello. Oh, Alexis Diaz says hello. What is up? Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, let's start off with Bitcoin. Then we'll talk about some of the other coins like XMR that's about to explode. XMR has started this huge cup and handle pattern. Super excited about it. We have a lot of reasons to be very bullish on a lot of different coins, and XMR is definitely one of those coins. All right, cool. So let's pull up Bitcoin here on a little bit of a bigger time frame than the 45-minute. Let's go back to the daily and take a look at what's happening. So I already talked about in my last live stream, I already talked about the ABC correction that we see here. Obviously, we have a pretty perfect ABC down from our peak, A, B, and C. And then I also talked about in my last live stream the double bottom pattern. So we have our first low here and our second low right here. So that's an Adam and Eve double bottom, which is pretty cool. If you don't know about this pattern, it's pretty much just a standard double bottom, but the right side of it's rounded. Instead of being like two V shapes, you have a rounded side on the right and a V shape on the left. So this is what an Adam and Eve double bottom pattern looks like, as you can see. Oops. And that's exactly what we have here with Bitcoin. A perfect Adam and Eve double bottom pattern. The other thing that we can see here with Bitcoin, if we drop down, let's go to the 4 hour, not the 45-minute. Actually, let's go to the 4 hour. If we look at the 4 hour time frame, you can see a cup and handle pattern as well, which is really good looking. So we have our cup right here and our handle right here. So that's a perfect cup and handle pattern here on Bitcoin. I do expect for us to see a bullish break through the resistance of this pattern sooner rather than later. Like we should see a very, very clear bullish breakout up to a new local high here. The second that we break above the neckline of this pattern, which is this green line going across, this is our neckline right here, that confirms the pattern. And we should see for a minimum target based on the cup and handle, you measure from the very bottom of the pattern right here, put it on the top, and then place that at the point of breakout, and that gives you a minimum target for the cup and handle pattern. Now, obviously, that's a minimum target for one pattern. There's a lot of other things in this market that are telling us that we're going to go a lot higher than just this minimum target of 104,000. But just based on this pattern alone, if we break above the neckline, we do have a minimum target of 104,000. And again, the way to measure this, if you want to learn about these patterns For the cup and handle pattern, you measure from the very bottom of the pattern up to the neckline and then put it on top of the neckline, and that gives you a minimum target for the pattern, which would be again 104,000 per coin, right? So that's pretty cool. We see an Adam and Eve double bottom. We see a cup and handle pattern. There's a lot of reasons to be expecting a move like this on Bitcoin, something like this, right? Break up through the neckline, really build some momentum, and start to see a strong recovery. So that looks really good here. Mr. Intellilus, what is up? Thank you for tuning in. Alex Diaz says, is it possible $1 Jasmy? We'll take a look at that in a second and kind of analyze how high Jasmy could go. There's a lot of potential for a lot of upside on a lot of altcoins. That's just facts. A ton of potential in this market is crazy. Let's see here. Raminita Scholl? I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'm sorry. Hello, Dallin. Thanks for your encouragement. Yeah, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that. Dom Pelosi says, come on, Theta been down so long. Yeah, but there's hope, man. We're going to talk about Theta in a second, which, by the way, for all my Theta people, I've been selling these hats. Quite a few people have bought these hats. These are brand new hats. They were given to me. Shout out to my friend Chris, who reached out and literally gave me a bunch of these perfect hats. I just had to pay for shipping. So if you want a cool Theta hat, check in the description of the video or the live stream. You can get one of these cool hats for $35 or for 30. It's either 35 or 30. I think it's $35. That includes shipping and also one of these cool t-shirts as well. If you live in the United States. If you don't live in the United States, you'll have to pay for shipping. So yeah, King J says, good morning. Hope everybody is ready for the bull run. I am. I'm ready for a massive bull run. Big things are coming, you guys. It's going to be so crazy. What we're going to see in this market over this year in 2026, it's going to knock your socks off. Like, it's going to blow you away. People should be excited, not fearful right now. Seriously, it's going to be so crazy. Mr. Despercapado 004 says, do you think Theta will return to its all-time high again? Yes, I absolutely do. I 100% think Theta will return to its all-time high again. Josh Ordy 6844 says, good morning from Australia again. Loving the regular streams. Keep them coming, big man. How do you feel about this outside noise? Read DOJ and Trump and Clarity Act, will it affect uptrend? You know, one of the things I talk about on these streams consistently over and over again, fundamentals in terms of news events and stuff like that, they have a lot less of a price impact than what people believe they do. So it's not something that I really look at a lot. The first thing that I'm looking at is a chart. Now, if like some type of black swan event happens, I'll factor that into my analysis. Usually not as a reason to sell, unless like some coin completely stops developing. You know, like some coins have just completely died. But for the most part, if there's still development, if the core fundamentals of the project are still good, like with Bitcoin, with Theta, with Ethereum, with all of these coins, right? If the core fundamentals of the project are still good, if there's some crazy news event like a black swan event, I'm not really going to care. I'll just buy the dip if there's an opportunity to. Like during COVID, people thought COVID was going to last for multiple like years in terms of market corrections, when really the correction only happened 1 month. When COVID hit, the market fell 50%. Then we had a full-blown recovery and a massive bull market during a global pandemic, right? So usually that kind of stuff, less important than what people think, which is kind of a lot of people hear that and they go, what? You know, I've been trained my whole life watching the news and stuff to think that fundamentals have this massive impact on price. You know, like if something bad happens in the news, but professional analysts are looking at the chart long before they're even caring about news articles. And a lot of the best calls I've ever made happened when people were selling because of a news article that they thought was going to have a massive negative price impact. And maybe it did have a short-term impact, like, but it was already too late. The drop had happened, like you couldn't have done anything about it. But the best calls I've made are during times when most people are selling because they think some news thing is going to screw everything up. And it almost never does. You should make your usual hat into a theta hat. That would be cool. Oh man, that's funny. Pi cycle is wide open and flared. Looks like a long way to go before the cross. You'd have to show me a chart, man. That doesn't make any sense. Unless you guys show me a chart, if you say stuff like that, it's not going to make any sense. I mean, I know what the pi cycle is, but you'd have to show me a chart. Dolo is up 50% over the last 90 minutes with more runway ahead. I haven't checked Dolo for a little bit, so we'd have to look. But anyways, back to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is looking good. Loving this cup and handle pattern. Loving the fact that we should break above this neckline soon. It's holding support nicely. We're on the 618 if you measure from swing low right here to or this one right here, swing low right here to swing high. We're on the 618. Things look good for Bitcoin. So if things look good for Bitcoin, that's good for the rest of the market. Because here's the deal, okay? The way this market works, Bitcoin dominance falls off a cliff during the most mania crazy peak of bull markets, but Bitcoin itself moons. So this is the way it works, okay? If you look historically, 2017 was one of the biggest bull markets for crypto ever. Massive bull market in 2017. If you look at Bitcoin dominance, even though Bitcoin went from being worth $1,000 per coin right here to 20,000 right here, Bitcoin dominance fell off a cliff. You can see Bitcoin dominance went from 96% all the way down to 36%. But Bitcoin went from 1,000 per coin to 20,000 per coin. So basically, the way that it works is Bitcoin goes into a massive bull market, and people see that and they go, oh, crypto as an industry is doing well. That means altcoins are good to invest into. They're a good risk-on asset because Bitcoin is performing well. So when Bitcoin is performing well, and Bitcoin always starts the bull market too. Even here in 2017, Bitcoin was rallying long before altcoins did. So Bitcoin always front runs. People see that the crypto markets are in a bull market and they start thinking risk on. And that's when they start putting money into altcoins. They put so much money into altcoins. There's so many new coins created. So much hype happens in the industry itself that you see Bitcoin dominance fall because all these altcoins are doing like 600, 700%, sometimes 200% in a day, a lot of times in the peak of a bull market. And so people are making crazy money on altcoins and money on Bitcoin too, but they're not Bitcoin isn't doing as big as a percentage as altcoins are. So that's what happens in the peak of these bull markets. So if you look over here too, Same thing happened right here. Okay, here's 2021, massive crypto bull market. All right, Bitcoin went from being worth 3K right here to 69K right here. Okay, 69K. But Bitcoin dominance fell from 73% down to 38%. So we see that historically, we see these cycles where Bitcoin dominance is falling. The crypto industry is doing really well. People are investing in altcoins because they're making a bunch of money. And the altcoins are making a bigger percentage gain. They're thinking risk on. They know Bitcoin's doing well. Same thing is happening right now, okay? Same exact thing. We have, if we look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin rallied first. Nobody can argue this. If you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin rallied first. And yeah, we've seen a couple altcoins pop off. Zcash, XRP, a couple of them have popped off, okay? But Bitcoin rallied first. So what's about to happen is we're about to go from this being a Bitcoin bull market to it being a Bitcoin and altcoin bull market. That's what we're headed into. So it's starting. The big rally that a lot of people are waiting for is starting. That's what we're headed into. So what we're going to see happen is Bitcoin will run like crazy. And right now this isn't popular to talk about because here's the thing. There's so many Bitcoin maxis out there that you talk about an altcoin bull market right now and people don't believe it. They don't think that that's going to happen because it's cool to be a Bitcoin maxi. You know, Bitcoin went from 16K all the way up to 126,000. So it's cooler to be a Bitcoin maxi right now. But in terms of cycles, if you look at cycles, Bitcoin dominance is about to fall off a cliff. It's about to do the same thing that it did right here and right here. And one of the reasons why, first of all, is cyclical timing. So if we pull up our tool over here on the left, I believe it's right here. Here we go. Time cycles tool. And you click on the peak low here and go over here. You get this idea of how the time cycles work for Bitcoin dominance. And Bitcoin dominance is about to roll off a cliff here. It's about to fall. In which case, altcoins are about to go crazy and Bitcoin's about to go crazy as well. So this tells you that the Bitcoin markets are about to go nuts. And the crypto markets, I mean, are about to go nuts, including Bitcoin, but especially altcoins. That's what it tells us. So going back to Bitcoin for a minute, if you look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin is in a massive big picture uptrend. Now, if you want to know one of the most fundamental principles of trading and investing, the trend is your friend. That is one of the most popular, common, most powerful things you could ever learn about trading and investing. The trend is your friend. So in Bitcoin, in the big picture, is in a massive uptrend. You can clearly see it. If you look at this chart, nobody can deny that Bitcoin is in a massive uptrend. Look at it. Huge, massive uptrend over a long period of time. And we're looking at Coinbase here, but if you go to BTC, the index all-time history for Bitcoin, and you zoom all the way out, this thing has been trending up since its inception. The entire time. Yeah, it's had a bear market here, a bear market here, a bear market here, a bear market here, but it's been in a massive uptrend this entire time. So Bitcoin clearly is in an uptrend. So to try to fight that is like trying to swim upstream when a dam breaks. It's just not smart. You're just going against the trend. And I know people think, oh, well, it's had bear markets along the way, so this is going to be another bear market right now. You should sell all your crypto. The bear market just started. But we're not seeing any of the signs for that to happen. We don't have any of the the reasons to see a bear market. And I know people are comparing, they're comparing this right here to this over here. So this right here to this right here. They're saying, oh, look, it's a double top kind of structure. Bitcoin is clearly going to see a bear market. It's a double top. But the people that make the most money in these markets, smart bears make less money than stupid bulls. That's really the way this market works. People that have almost no knowledge of trading or investing, but they just buy and they ape into stuff and they hold on, those people end up making more money over the long run than people that are trying to predict all of the corrections. Because even though you'll be able to get some of the corrections because it'll be so obvious you just can't ignore it, you're not going to be able to get most of them. And most of the time the market is trending up anyways. It's the exception that we see a bear market, right? If you look in the big picture here, the market's trending up most of the time. So you don't want to try to go against probabilities. That's what people in casinos do. They go blow all their money, and they're giving all their money to the casino because the odds are against them to do that. So, but if you're looking at this market objectively, most of the time it's in an uptrend. The majority of the time. Now, one of the reasons I believe Bitcoin is not about to start a bear market is because of the big picture uptrend and studying previous cycles. So let's pull up Bitcoin here on Coinbase so we have a little bit better volume profile because it looks the best on Coinbase. Then let's pull up Apple on the right here. Now, I've talked about this hundreds of times. I've been actually comparing this fractal since Bitcoin was down here at 16K. So this has been something that's been on my mind for a long time now. So let's pull up Apple on the right. Yes, Apple computers. And let's zoom out a little bit here on the Apple chart. And let's take a look at what this early trend looked like for Apple computers, because there is a lot of parallels. So when the computing technology and the internet as a technology started to come out, people started to get pretty excited. And there was this thing that probably all of you know about, especially if you're an older viewer, about this thing called the internet bubble that happened. Everybody knows about the internet bubble unless you're born, in like 2003 or something, right? This is the internet bubble on Apple. So you can see that people are starting to get excited about computers, about the internet as a technology, and we had this big rally on tech stocks. And then a big correction. I mean, look, this is a pretty big correction. And I know it doesn't look big zoomed out, but the percentage on this with Apple computers was an 83% decline. That's pretty dang big. That's a big drop in value from its peak. In terms of the stock world, that's a big drop. It's not that big in terms of altcoins. This is why crypto people have like the craziest resilience in the entire world, right? Crypto people are like really resilient because they're used to like 97% corrections and stuff in the big picture. So, but in terms of the stock world, an 83% decline is massive. So people got really excited about this new technology called the internet and called computing, home computers. A bubble happened and a bubble popped. Now, what's crazy about the crypto markets right now, 2021 was the crypto markets version of the internet bubble. It seriously was. 2017 in a way too, but especially 2021 was the crypto markets internet bubble. We had a big run up, a big pop. It was the same thing. Now, if we zoom out here and take a look at Apple in the big picture. Now, what happened after the internet bubble popped, what nobody talks about, everybody talks about the internet bubble popped, right? That's everybody talks about that. What nobody talks about is what happened to the stock market after the internet bubble popped. Look at this. It's so crazy. Let's just pull up the NASDAQ, for example. Look at the NASDAQ composite. Here's the internet bubble right here in the late 90s. Here's the internet bubble pop right here. And look at the recovery. This is what nobody talks about. All they talk about is this right here. That's the only thing most people care about. Oh, there was this thing called the internet bubble and a bunch of people lost money and blah, blah, blah. Because most people don't think about this kind of stuff. Most people just, I want that new computer. It sounds cool, so they buy a computer. But they don't really think about how computers and the internet affected the economy. Because overall, look how much economic value came into the world after this new technology was developed and adopted by the public. But most people don't think like that. They just think, oh, look how much money you could lose. They think in terms of risk aversion. Oh, think of all those people who lost money in the internet bubble. But yeah, people lost money in the internet bubble, but think about how many people made tons of money buying the bottom of the internet bubble after it popped. Look at that growth. Absolutely insane. So back to Bitcoin and Apple. Now, really, Bitcoin is pretty much like, if I was to make a comparison between industries, Bitcoin is pretty much the Apple computers of the crypto industry. It's the sexy, cool thing that everybody wants. It's cool. People think Bitcoin is cool, and Bitcoin is cool. You guys, Bitcoin is freaking cool. Let's be honest. Is way cool. But in terms of the crypto industry, it's pretty much the Apple computers of blockchain. It's the cool thing. It's what people like. And if you compare these two charts together, it's actually astonishing how similar they really are. Like, look at this. Here is the first bubble I traded on Bitcoin in 2017. Here's the crypto bubble most people are familiar with in 2021, right here. And here is the internet bubble on Apple. Here was the housing market crisis, right here. Look at the similarities between these charts. This is way more similar than anything else people are showing you. If you go to X and you see somebody comparing, oh, look, Bitcoin is going to double top because it looked like FTX, or it looks like the FTX double top in 2021, or, oh, Bitcoin is going to do a death cross, or whatever people are trying to tell you, right? This looks way more similar than anything else. And by the way, too, what's even crazy, too, is if you zoom in right here, I'm on a little bit of a bigger time frame for the Apple comparison, so it just shows up as a wick. But Apple also saw a pretty big correction from $9.96 per share down to $7.14 right here. And that's exactly what Bitcoin just did too. There's so many similarities between these two charts. It's crazy. So what happened to Apple is huge, massive volume here at the beginning of the trend as we're building momentum in the big picture, new technology, home computing, the internet. And then it grew like crazy. And a massive uptrend started that the uptrend had been there the whole time, but it went full force and parabolic. The people made a bunch of money trading and investing in. And then it became the biggest company in the world for a while. Now, if we look at Bitcoin over here on the left, look at all this massive institutional volume here on Bitcoin. Do you guys see the similarities? Can you see why I'm so bullish on crypto? People are like, Dallin, you have crazy targets. Well, I crazy believe in Bitcoin and crypto as a new technology that is going to shape the face of planet Earth. It's going to change the way humans interact financially. It's going to create public ledgers for real estate, for all of this stuff that needs to be on a public ledger instead of trusting centralized systems. It's a better database. It's a better way of doing a lot of stuff that we've been doing in the past. So there's a lot of reasons to be uber bullish on Bitcoin, but also the altcoins as well. A lot of reasons. So you guys get the point, right? Here in the big picture, Bitcoin is set up for some massive growth. It's going to be crazy. And it's going to blow people away. Most people are not thinking big picture enough. Now, Grok, people have been showing me, Grok, the AI on X. People have been showing me these predictions that Grok is making. Like, Grok is going to go to... Grok says that Bitcoin is going to go to 1.2 per coin or something like that by 2030. So if you guys want crazy predictions, go to Grok, all right? Grok as an AI is less conservative than I am. A lot of my calls for these coins, as big as they sound right now, is far away in terms of price as they sound right now. They're not. I actually kind of leaned towards conservative targets for a new developing industry that can change the world. Like I really believe Bitcoin could go up towards 400K. But my first kind of major target that I talked about was 250. And I started talking about that like back here at like 30,000 or something. Like when Bitcoin was over here, I started talking about 250K per coin. And I'd been talking about 100K per coin since 2017 for Bitcoin. And we already passed 100K, as you know. So 400K wouldn't surprise me for Bitcoin. 250K, super, super probable that we get to 250K. So my targets are not as crazy as what people think, All right, we got a lot of messages to read through here, so let's stop doing analysis and do some messages here. Alt season is coming soon. I agree with you, King J. Alt season should be coming very, very soon. We have all of the parameters for a big, massive, explosive, profitable alt season. We really do. Let's see here. Is Zcash still a hold? Yes. Zcash is still a hold. I already read that one. I saw somebody. Let me see here. Let's do theta analysis because a lot of people have been asking me about that in the chat. So let's pull up theta and we'll do some analysis on it. So here's the NASDAQ composite. The reason I want to show you this real quick, along with theta on the right, is to teach a little bit more about market cycles, because this is what you need to understand. Because once theta starts to explode, once theta takes off, you're going to be wondering, well, what caused that? Why did theta do that? Most people, I'd say 90% of people, are going to say that it was because of fundamentals, which theta has super strong fundamentals, so I'm not going to disagree that it has a strong fundamental case. But in terms of learning about this stuff with the charts, I want to tell you what's leading to a big breakout in theta And when it happens, you can look back and see what led to that breakout, right? So if we look right here with theta on the right and the NASDAQ composite on the left, here is the internet bubble right here on the left with the NASDAQ. And this is basically what you need to understand, okay? The internet bubble, the NASDAQ, had a false bottom right here. And then we went for one more low, which ended up being the real true bottom. So even though history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, as we like to say, because like if you look at these two charts, there's a lot of similarities, but it's not like you can go and look at every particular and it's exactly the same. But there's a lot of similarities. And in terms of human emotion, they really do rhyme with each other. So here's euphoria up here on the NASDAQ. This is euphoria on theta. Here's our bull trap on theta. Here's our bull trap on the NASDAQ. Here is our false bottom, also known as the anger phase on the NASDAQ during the internet bubble. And here is our false bottom on theta. Bouncing back up here, then we go for our true bottom down here at 29 cents, right? And here's our true bottom on the NASDAQ. So that's the depression phase of the cycle. So this is what you need to understand about cycles. They repeat themselves. The same patterns appear in these markets over and over again. That's why I was able to call silver. I've been bullish on silver really since 2017 when I started to look at it a lot. But the reason I was able to call a big breakout on silver, which I've been continuously bullish on every time anybody has ever asked me about silver, I've been bullish on it. The reason I was able to do that is because of market cycle analysis. I mean, you can look at this chart and see plain as day that it did the same exact thing that the NASDAQ did, you know? So when silver was right here in 2017, and I was looking at silver a lot in this area, and especially in 2020, and when it fell down right here, it's because these cycles repeat. The human emotion of these cycles repeats itself. It doesn't change. That's why if you don't have this downloaded, you need to download this chart right now. Go download this. Go print it off. Go pin it on your wall. Or tape it on your wall in your office or whatever. Because this chart right here, if you don't have this, you need to understand this. If you want to be a successful trader and investor in any market, whether it's crypto, whether it's silver, whether it's the NASDAQ, whatever you're trading, you need to understand that these markets move based on human emotion. This is why I don't trade news, because I've had way more calls that were successful using this than any news article could ever give me. This gives me the truth of what's happening based on human emotion. And humans are trading these charts. Humans are trading these, even if they're not looking at the chart, if they're just looking at the price, it's human emotion that causes people to buy or to sell. So that's why it's so important to understand. So download that chart. And by the way, if you're not a member of my free Discord, join the free Discord and go down to Knowledge and Links. And in here, I have a link called not free ebook, called Top Trading Patterns. Check out my free ebook too. It's pretty helpful. Really powerful stuff in there. I go in depth on cycles in my free ebook. So we'll pull that up too. But if you go to the trading patterns, you can download all of these examples. The Wall Street cheat sheet, all of this stuff. I have common crypto trading patterns. These work for crypto. They work for a lot of different markets. Super powerful stuff to understand this right here. Also in my ebook, completely free ebook, you can go down to the bottom of this thing, or I think it's closer to the middle of the ebook, and you can learn about, where is it? Market cycles. Okay, here it is. I go into depth on market cycles, and I made this ebook when Bitcoin was worth 3,000 per coin, calling for a massive bull market and recovery on Bitcoin, and it went all the way to 69,000. So these market cycles work. To understand where you're at in the cycle is extremely powerful. It gives you an edge that most people don't have. But you have to understand how to apply it properly, because you see people pull up the Wall Street cheat sheet and they have no idea where we're actually at in the cycle, but they think they do. And they'll post this all over on YouTube and X and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, a bear market is coming. Look, we're in complacency. You have to understand more than just, oh, I think we're right here. You know, so download my free ebook, print it off if you want to, read it, and get these trading patterns from the Discord. Also in here, you guys, this is super powerful. This is a list of all of the different trading patterns and their statistical probabilities. I don't want a single person to get into trading and investing and gamble. We're not going to the casino. Gambling, in my opinion, is the dumbest thing ever. Like, unless you're just going to do it for fun, you know, which I personally don't believe is a good thing to do, even still, because people get super addicted to that kind of stuff. But gambling is stupid, okay? Professional traders and investors don't gamble. They get good at technical analysis, and they have statistical probabilities in their favor. They use actual odds and probabilities to get good at this stuff. So take away all of the risk and learn the actual principles of trading and investing. That's how you're going to get good at doing this. But you're not going to get good if you just gamble and shoot in the dark. So yeah, theta looks really good. It looks amazing. Is ready for big things. It's literally in the depression phase of the cycle, which is where Bitcoin was at when I made this example in my ebook, right before Bitcoin went to 69,000 per coin when it was worth 3,000 per coin. So I've used this before to properly predict bull markets in the past, and you can too. It's not like it's some crazy magic trick. You just have to understand the laws of these markets. Dolo up 50%. Let's check out Dolo. Dolo on Binance. Let's go to the daily here. Holy cow. Nice. See, this was in the depression phase of its cycle too, right? You have a big bull market here. Euphoria. This would have been our false bottom or the anger phase. This was the depression phase right here. Look how much bullish momentum is coming into this thing. It's breaking out of depression into a new cycle. It's coming from this point of maximum financial opportunity, and it's moving into disbelief. Then it'll go to hope, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria, all over again. So yeah, this Dolo chart does look really good, especially in the big picture. If you were to dollar cost average into this thing, then you're going to do good. Look how big that volume spike is. I don't think it's going to go any lower either. When I say dollar cost average, I just mean in the short term, we just pumped like 74, 75%. So if you're going to have an entry into this thing, you'd want to try to get some buy orders like this, you know, so you're not just FOMO buying in the short term. But in the big picture, I bet that this is the bottom of the cycle, because this would be the depression phase. Hey Dallin, love your videos and analysis. Can you take a look at XCN? I can already tell you I'm bullish on XCN. Love this chart, by the way. It's amazing. So let's zoom out here on XCN. This is also just finished an ABC correction. So outside of the market cycles, this is a standard ABC correction. A, B, and C. Now, bringing the market cycle into this would be euphoria up here, and this would be depression down here. We just broke out into disbelief. So be watching for a bigger reversal. Be watching for more upside off of these lows down here, because that's a perfect ABC correction. This is what crypto does. Crypto does this pattern so much. Little did I know when I first got into Bitcoin, because my little brother told me about Bitcoin in 2014. He watched a Watch Mojo video on YouTube, and he's like, Dallin, there's this money that you can mine with your computer, and it's worth real money. So I looked at him dead in the eyes, and I said, that sounds like the biggest scam I've ever heard in my life. I was like, you got to be careful what you look at on the internet, Caleb. So then I started looking into it and researching more and realized, dude, Bitcoin is not just this weird thing. Bitcoin is like a real technology. And then the Watch Mojo video, or the Joe Rogan podcast in 2015, he had Andreas Antonopoulos on his podcast. And for the real Bitcoin OGs, you guys know who Andreas Antonopoulos is. So I thought, okay, I got to buy a Bitcoin. So I bought my first Bitcoin in 2015 at like 180 bucks. But little did I know I was buying the bottom of an ABC correction. And if you look at Bitcoin here on the right and Onyx coin over here on the left, it's the same thing as when I first got into Bitcoin. So crypto does these patterns. Like I said, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Crypto does these patterns over and over again. Let's go to the 5-day with Bitcoin. Let's get this in the right spot here. See, look at that. ABC correction, ABC correction. Perfect ABC correction on both of these charts. So crypto has a tendency to do these same types of patterns over and over again. And by the way, at the time when I bought my first Bitcoin, I was working at a Marriott hotel. Ended up losing I was making $9.43 an hour or something like that. Ended up losing my job at the Marriott hotel, and which at the time was like devastating. I thought, oh, this is bad, you know. How am I going to have an income and everything? But little did I know it was the best thing that ever could have happened to me. Because then 2016 and 2017 happened, and crypto changed my life, and I'm so glad that I was not mopping floors and cleaning bathrooms and fixing people's TVs. Not that I have any problem doing that kind of work, you know. I don't have any problem doing that kind of stuff, but my life was a lot better having a big income, being self-sufficient, paying for my own apartment, you know, buying my own car. Like, my life changed completely. So it ended up being the best thing that like ever happened to me was losing my job and stuff. So, you know, this just goes to show crypto can change your life. But you got to have faith. You got to understand the cycles. You got to go out on a limb and take some risk. You can't just assume that you're going to be able to just... Basically, the worst thing you could do is just assume that you're not going to make money with crypto. By the bottom of big cycles, you will make money. You will. And that's exactly what is happening across the board right now with crypto. We're at the bottom of a big cycle for altcoins. Bitcoin is starting to rally. Bitcoin has already started to rally in the big picture. It's leading the bull market. We're headed into a massive bull market for crypto. So you guys can change your life too, but you can't change it if you're going to whine about at the top of the market being in it. Alex says we need an alt season so bad. Yeah, that's what's coming, man. We're going to go into a big alt season. We have all of the characteristics for a massive, super uber bullish alt season. It's going to be crazy fun. Operation Shutdown says the trend is your friend. Yes, the trend is our friend. What do you think about Verge? You know, I haven't looked at Verge in a minute. Let's check it out. Looks good. This would be the depression phase right here of Verge. A, B, and C. This is depression down here at the bottom of our C wave. This would be disbelief. The disbelief phase usually looks like a double bottom, so that's what we see here. Disbelief. So this is primed for, it's on the verge to explode here, for a big explosion. Don't mind my dad jokes, you guys. It's on the verge of a massive explosion. And I really think that this thing is going to rally hard. This looks exactly like Litecoin did before 2017. And this is the story for the majority of the altcoins. So if you pull up like Litecoin and you look at Litecoin before the 2017 pump happened, this is the story. This is the story for the majority of the altcoins. So where's good old Litecoin here? There we go. Look at this. Okay, here's Litecoin on the right. Here's Verge on the left. But the thing is I could go through a list of coins that look exactly like this. Okay, we have Litecoin, we have Verge. Just one more for time's sake. Digibyte. Pull up Digibyte here. It's the same thing. Same story for Digibyte here in the big picture. So this is the stuff people should be looking at. This is the stuff nobody's telling you about. But this is really where your focus should be, is on this right here. This is what's going to change your life, is to be looking at this. Not at news, not at all of the fear about a bear market starting. You guys, these cycles clearly show, especially with altcoins, but Bitcoin has a ton of upside left, that we're not in euphoria, we're in depression. We're not about to start a bear market. We're at the bottom of one that's been happening for a long time. The stock market will see a pop, another pop, which will be way bigger than the internet bubble. Not today, not this year, but it will happen. You know, I think the stock market is going to keep rallying pretty hard, which will kind of be like a catalyst for crypto. Don't think it's going to last forever, though. That's the thing about the stock market. If you're looking at it in the big picture, it can definitely go a lot higher, don't get me wrong. But at some point, it's going to have to top out. But during that period of time, the stock market and crypto actually has a much bigger correlation than most people would care to admit. So we should see a big run on in both the stock market and the crypto markets that could last all the way till 2030, you know. So something to keep in mind. What about oil, silver, and gold commodities? I'm bullish on all of those. Especially, you know, if you want to get a really good entry right now, I know people are bearish on oil because of FUD, because of things happening in the world. They think oil is going to crash. But to be honest with you, oil is a really, really good entry. Let's pull up the big chart here. Futures. Oil futures. No. Is this it? Yeah, there we go. And we're looking at oil here in the big picture. Oil really did the same thing that Bitcoin did right here in terms of cycles. So let's go to like a 10-day candlesticks for Bitcoin. Let's zoom all the way out on both of these charts. Let's go to the 2-month for oil. Okay. In terms of cycles, this right here, this falling wedge right here on oil in the big picture, is very similar to what happened to Bitcoin over here on the right in terms of cycle analysis. It's a very similar thing. So yeah, I could see a big rally coming for oil in the big picture over a long period of time. I see a big rally coming. Don't buy into this whole idea that electric cars are just going to instantly replace oil. It's not going to. It will probably, there will be, it might be electric cars, might not be. There probably will be, in terms of transportation and stuff, eventually a replacement for that. But that kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. And I'm bullish on Tesla too. You know, I think I love Teslas. I drove my friend's Cybertruck the other day. It's actually super fun. They're pretty cool vehicles. So I have nothing against electric cars. But those kinds of things don't happen overnight. But in the big picture here, oil, this thing is set up for a big rally in a big way. Silver, I've been bullish on silver since 2017. I've been bullish consistently. So, and I still think silver's going to rally in the big picture for a long ways. This silver's not done doing what it's doing here. This thing is set up for some massive growth. Now there will be corrections along the way up. Some of them will probably be 30% declines. So when that kind of stuff happens, don't panic sell, buy the dip. You know, because here's the deal. Silver just broke out of a big cup and handle in the big picture. Let's pull up the right chart here to where we have all of the data. Silver just did what Monero did. Which is funny because I was telling people that Monero looked exactly like silver. So it's good to see it doing what I expected it would. But if you look right here, here's a massive cup and handle on silver. Look how big that thing is. That thing goes all the way back to the 70s. So this is huge. This is a big deal for silver. Also, if you see increasing price and volume, that's bullish. So we have increasing price and volume for silver. So this thing, although it will have 30% declines along the way up, that people will try to call tops on and people will panic sell, this thing is set up for massive growth. Well over $200 per ounce. So silver super bullish. Gold, these things have been held back for so long, but they can't be held back any longer. It's like impossible to hold something so bullish down forever. As long as they have, it's honestly surprising. But gold too. I know gold is really high right now. So there will be corrections and opportunities to buy more. It will probably happen. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a correction soon for both silver and gold, like a 30% decline. The fact of the matter is, in the big picture, both silver and gold and oil are all going to go up in a big way, in a very profound way. And by the way, if we do see a bit of a correction in the short term for silver and gold, like a 30% decline, because there is a lot of FOMO here, like I said, it'll be a good dip buying opportunity, but also a lot of that money could flood into crypto, because we have historically seen money come from gold pumping and then into the crypto markets after. That's something that's historically happened if you look at the charts. What do you think about the market? Will it pump? For how long? So the markets are looking super bullish right now. They should pump for quite a bit longer, especially if you're looking at, you know, the big picture with crypto. Crypto is set up for a lot of growth. And when I say that, I'm not saying it's not going to pump right now. Crypto is going to pump right now too. But I'm thinking crypto could pump until 2030 pretty easily. Bryson McDonald, what is up, my brother? Good to see you. You're right, Dallin, especially when AI starts taking over companies, things are going to boom. Yeah, there's a lot of upside for the world markets for everything. You know, it's not going to last forever, but there's a lot of upside. There has to be a bear market in the stock market at some point, a big one, you know, bigger than what we saw in 2008, probably more like a depression, but we're not there yet. We still have that big FOMO, that big euphoric run that always happens before a big decline. Pepe is king in crypto. Pepe does look super good in the big picture. If you look at the cycles here with Pepe, it looks good short term too. I keep saying that, and I don't want you guys to think that I'm not bullish in the short term, because I am. But Pepe basically did what's called the first sell-off pattern of a cycle. So one of my favorite examples of this, they look a little bit different because the ABC correction is slightly different, but it's the same thing that happened, so it's a good comparison still. If we pull up stellar lumens over here on the right, and we look at stellar lumens, this is what a first sell-off pattern looks like. So you have a big run up, a big correction, and then you have a big rally afterwards. So that's called a first sell-off right here. That happens in the market cycle. If you go look at the market cycle chart, right here, images, right here, if you zoom into this chart example right here, you'll see this first sell-off right here. Actually, that's blurry. Maybe now it will work. See this first sell-off pattern right here? That always happens before the big rally up to a new all-time high, or usually does. And that's what we saw with stellar lumens over here on the right. That's exactly where Pepe is over here on the left. And by the way, Pepe is like the meme coin for Ethereum. So Ethereum is super bullish right now. So Pepe is basically like buying Ethereum on leverage, because all the people that are thinking in terms of risk on, that are a little bit more risky and less conservative, those guys are going to be putting a bunch of money into Pepe. They already are, especially the whales right now, in preparation for a big rally, because they know Ethereum is going to pump, and buying Pepe is basically like buying Ethereum on leverage. So it looks really good, you guys. Your volume seems to be getting lower and lower. You know, I actually agree with you if you're looking at Bitcoin. There's other coins, like a lot of altcoins right now are taking off like crazy. Now, by the way, markets can rally really hard on low volume. I know people think that low volume means it has to dump, but what low volume and increasing price actually means is that it will eventually dump, not that it's going to right that second. If you study Apple, for example, Apple had insane amounts of volume here early on in the uptrend before it went crazy. Then it started this big bull market here, and volume has been declining ever since, but the price is increasing. So eventually this will lead to a bear market on Apple in a big way, but we're probably not there yet. We'll probably still see another rally before it finally crashes. But you can see markets can rally for a long time on low volume. Increasing price and decreasing volume just means that eventually it's unsustainable and will not continue to increase in price. And Bitcoin is the same thing. If we look at the Bitcoin chart right now, Bitcoin will probably rally for a long time, but the institutions have already positioned themselves. See how much volume there is here? Increasing price and volume, that's bullish. But now we're starting to see a little bit of a decline in Bitcoin volume. But you saw the Apple chart. Like, look at this. Let's compare the two together again. Apple on the right. Let's go to 15-day. So you saw the Apple chart. Apple looked exactly the same as Bitcoin does right now. So here's Bitcoin on the left. Here's Apple on the right. All right. Here's the internet bubble on Apple. I did this at the start, but we'll do it again. Here's the internet bubble on Apple. Here's the housing market crash. Here's the first crypto bubble. Here's the FTX crash. Okay. Early on for Apple, there was a lot of volume. That's big institutions positioning themselves. And if we look at Bitcoin too, Bitcoin, let's go a little bit higher time frame. Bitcoin, a lot of volume here. Tons of volume for Bitcoin. Big institutions positioning themselves. But then once Apple started to really go into its bull market, volume did start to decline. But was it the top? No. Apple is still increasing in value to this day. You know? It hit $287 per share. And over here, it was worth like $9 per share early on in the trend. So Bitcoin can go a long way before it finally tops out. It can rise a lot on low volume, and that's really key to understand about these markets. Now with the altcoins, if you tell me altcoins are low volume, I would have to say not really. I disagree. There's a lot of volume on a lot of altcoins, like pull up Digibyte. You know, look how much volume there is down here. 15 billion Digibyte tokens traded over here. 8.2 billion Digibyte tokens traded right there. Check out Dolo. I was just requested to do analysis on earlier. 5.5 billion Dolo tokens traded in that volume spike alone. In comparison to the rest of it, the rest of the volume spikes we've seen, that's huge. Massive increase in volume. So, and crypto volume as a whole is way higher than it's ever been historically. As a whole, right? If you go look at this, go look at the total crypto market cap, you know. Total crypto market cap right now, let's go to the 15-day candlesticks. Total crypto market cap, we have way more volume starting since 2021 back here and coming back in right here, as you can see, than we ever saw back here. So there's a ton of volume in crypto in the big picture. So this is what you have to look at. You have to look at the big picture. You have to understand what's happening in terms of the context of the industry. Crypto is doing pretty much a repeat of what happened to the internet, to what happened to home computing, a new developing technology. There's tons of institutional volume here. Right here, you can see all of that institutional volume. That's going to lead to something very big. So there is a lot of volume for crypto. Can you compare the silver and Monero chart for us? Both are doing awesome lately. Yeah, I've actually done this in probably like 4 or 5 live streams now, because I've been looking at this comparison even before Monero broke out. And by the way, if you guys want to really start to make money, first of all, download my free ebook. Like I said, join the Discord, go to Knowledge and Links, and then click free ebook. Download my free ebook. Second of all, get the free trading patterns from the Discord. But also, join the VIP. I mean, XMR, like here's an example of one of my calls, okay? XMR went from, here's a call that I made 4 months ago, calling a big pump on XMR up to a new all-time high because of a bull flag. And this is what happened. It followed that perfectly, all the way from $250 to over $500 per coin. It went straight up. So join the VIP. It'll change your life. I promise you that. You will not regret it. So let's pull up the silver chart over here on the right, and we'll keep Monero over here on the left. See this? Big cup and handle on silver, big cup and handle on Monero. Perfect setup. And if you're not, I know Binance or Bitfinex volume is pretty low here. Bitfinex is a debt exchange. this exchange is dead. Okay? Nobody cares about Bitfinex. Really. Not that much. So you can't base your Monero volume looking at Bitfinex. You'd have to go to Binance or somewhere else to look at your Monero volume, which, you know, is going to give you a more accurate picture of the volume on Monero. But see this big cup and handle here on silver? That's the same cup and handle that we see with Monero. Very similar structure in the big picture. So Monero could easily rally up towards 1,000 or even higher here, just like how silver broke its all-time high and just went straight up. Monero just barely broke its all-time high. So this thing can easily double again. It doubled from that entry I posted in the VIP at $250, and it could double again pretty easily up towards 1,000 plus. So looks really good. Telcoin. Yeah, we'll do one more coin here. We'll do Telcoin. Pull up our Telcoin chart. Yeah, Telcoin looks really good. I know I know you guys request a lot of the same charts for me. So some of the analysis that I'm showing in these live streams is going to be the same stuff that I showed last time. But it doesn't hurt to be reminded of what's really happening, because Telcoin, super bullish, crazy bullish. This is a repeat of the Ethereum fractal. So pulling up Ethereum on the right and Telcoin on the left. I know this is the same comparison I showed last time, but this is what you need to understand about Telcoin. Telcoin is in the disbelief phase of its cycle, seriously about to rally all the way to a new all-time high, just exactly like Ethereum did in 2021. Perfect setup. It looks so good. Yeah, it just looks amazing, you guys. This right here is the disbelief phase on Ethereum. Here's our disbelief phase on Telcoin. Here's our ABC correction on Telcoin. Here's our ABC correction on Ethereum. This would be the euphoria phase of Ethereum. This would be depression right here. Here would be euphoria on Telcoin and depression right here. It's the same thing happening all over again. So buying Telcoin right now, really smart. Super smart to be buying Telcoin right now. All right, cool, you guys. I'm going to go play some Magic the Gathering with some missionaries. So I got to go. But I love you guys. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you guys in future videos and in future live streams. And as always, stay profitable out there.